Okay, I'm back, baby.
This an all-out blitz, real hard hits, them other podcast trash, we gon' make them all quit. We cover all the topics with intelligence and logic. I know you wanna score, but ID gon' stop it. We from Texas, so that mean that we Texans. Breaking down the X's and O's, our profession. No complaining, just training, you see the progression. They had a Pro Bowl for talk shows, we get selected. We gon' celebrate every win like a birthday. Ray J with the news, first with all the updates. Spin move on the competition, yeah, we juking them. You not really in touch if you not tuning in. This is Crenshaw, Briggs, and VT. We want the touchdown, we not trying to go for 3. And it's best if you get up out the street, cause them bulls out the pen and they bout to stampede.
Houston Texans, what up?
What up?
What up?
What up?
What up?
What up?
Hey!
Hey everyone, welcome to the Texans Fan Bio Podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Briggs, tonight. And as always, I got my amazing trio. First off, I got my A1 since day one, Mr. Crenshaw. Say what's up to the folks.
What's up, everybody? Back from the draft. Let's go.
Yes, sir. And always with us, we got our space legend, Mr. VT.
What's going on, guys?
And guys, we have a special guest today. A lot of Texans fans are not happy with him. And that's why he's coming on to, tell us why he gave what he did on the draft grades. We got Mr. Eric Froton from NBC Sports. How you doing, sir?
Nice to meet everybody. Nice to meet and speak with the Texans fans. And I'm sorry I have to adorn the black hat today. I have no animosity towards the Texans or their fan base, and I don't mean any disrespect. I sincerely hope that everything does work out the best for you and the whole franchise for this upcoming season. And I do feel like you do have to understand there is a downside, and it could be pretty substantial if the Texans don't improve. And that's kind of what I guess I'll talk about today.
All right. Well, before we get into that, I want to give a shout out, and Crenshaw probably does too. Me and Crenshaw got to go to the draft and witness it firsthand. So we'd like to give a shout out to Brickhouse KC and KC Taco Company for letting us set up there and have a great time. Great experience. It was very fun. The people we got to meet, it was a blast. And so if anybody hasn't been live yet, it's a must-have. It's a checklist. It's pretty fun. Well, let's get into it. Let's talk about some NFL draft.
The Houston Texans, Blake.
All right, we're on the clock, and we're gonna turn to picking. We're gonna make you a Houston Texan.
Well, guys, we brought Eric here for the Texans, but before we do that, Eric, why don't you tell me what was your biggest surprise selection the whole draft and your most head-scratching pick of the whole draft?
Sure. In terms of a surprise selection, I think it was probably Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't think anybody saw him going 12. Where you guys, that your pick that you abdicated, Arizona moves back, they move up, and then all of a sudden it's Jahmyr Gibbs is the trade down. I just think it was, and it's not anything against the player itself, Jahmyr Gibbs, but he's 199 pounds, he's 5'11", and there's only so many ways you can really use a guy like that. He's not going to be an every down back, but I do certainly see the dynamic potential catching the ball in the open field. If he has a crease, he does hit that very well and is able to, navigate those sort of, run that way. But man, he's going to go down quick. You're not going to use him in a power role. It's impossible. But I think they kind of planned ahead of that, obviously, signing, the former Bears starter there, former Iowa State standout Montgomery. So, I think that was definitely the biggest surprise. I'm trying to say it's a bad thing. It's just I think draft capital-wise, nobody saw that, and that's how.
What about the head scratching pick? You got one for there? Same
head scratching pick. I mean, probably. God, I do think in the first round, that Campbell pick, where look at where the other linebackers went, and I'll kind of get to this point a little bit about how I feel like maybe Houston could have maneuvered a little bit if they were looking for a linebacker, because Drew Sanders went in the mid-60s, as did Trenton Simpson. And those are two elite, high-caliber, athletic rush linebackers who were five-star, pedigree, who went 50 picks later. And when you see that sort of a discrepancy between value, I think that that's something you have to look at and say, wow, was that really the best decision? So, I mean, it's nothing reflecting the players, but those two picks, I don't think they reflected very well in hindsight.
Yeah. You have a point there. BT, what about you?
I can understand why the Jamar Gibbs was head scratching. I would say it's not so much as a pick for me. It's all three. I would say of the first picks, the Patriots. The Patriots draft just to me seemed very weird. You already have a situation where Mac Jones did not do well last year, did not give him a lot of help, both on the coaching side as well as a roster. And then you go ahead and just go total defense, really, for all your premium picks. So I would say the head scratching, honestly, it's not a particular pick. It's just the entire draft of the Patriots. Why wouldn't you do something to help out your sophomore quarterback at this point, or whatever? Like, it looks like they want to get rid of him. It looks like to me, it looks like this is a conspiracy theory that they're trying to make him look bad so they can get rid of him. That's what it looks like to me. I'm not saying that's the case necessarily, but that's what the draft tells me.
Okay. Crenshaw, what about you?
I got to go with Dalton Kincaid. I didn't think he was a first round pick, and I was surprised the Bills took him that high. So it was a head scratcher for me. He's a great player, but I think it was a little bit too high.
Especially when you still had the Notre Dame tight end,
Michael Mayers.
Michael Mayers, yeah.
Yeah, that was so crazy. I gotta go with San Francisco picking a kicker in the third round. I was like, I mean, is this fantasy football we're playing, or what's going on? I mean, crazy. I don't get it, but
Yeah, at least the Patriots had a first and a second round pick. Yeah, the 49ers just started right out with the kicker.
Right. Oh, that's crazy. And then the Patriots picking a punter in the sixth round. I was like,
yeah.
Ooh.
They had their moments. Sure. Yeah.
I was like, man, that's crazy. But all right, guys, well, let's get into it. The other day after the draft, Mr. Froton made a draft grade of the NFL. He gave the Texans a D. So before I let BT and Crenshaw, I'll let you explain the reasoning of this harsh grade of the Texans. Go ahead, sir.
Well, again, just a little bit about my background, just so you know how I'm looking at it, because it is important to say, oh, yeah, this is a D. C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson stink. Obviously, don't. I mean, obviously. I thought that C.J. Stroud should have gone number 2. I had him mocked there in my mock draft, and I have no problem. I have Will Anderson going 3 as well. So in terms of the talent of those players, that's really not without question. But that is, from my perspective, what the capital is you went in with and what you came out with. You went all in there and obviously allocated a lot of draft capital. Let's get into that. So you took the number 3 pick and you moved down to the number 12. Actually, you moved up from the 12 to the number 3. You gave up the 12, the 33, another third round pick, and then you gave up a 4th to move up 9 spots. So in that move up, there is opportunity cost. Okay. You had the opportunity to select another player. Now, you had a couple different options here where you could go with that selection with 12. If you did want to move up and you said, okay, we need a premium edge. If Lucas Van Ness wasn't your style, if you didn't want to wait till the second round, fine, I understand. You could go up and get Tyree Wilson. Tyree Wilson lasted until 7. So you could have done exactly, we have an apples-to-apples comparison, what Arizona did, where they moved back to 12, they saw the opportunity, and they used the 34 pick, which was their pick, and you guys had the 33, which they then used later on. They used the 34 to leverage to go up to 6, which they took Paris Johnson. If you wanted, Tyree Wilson is there, Texas Tech guy from the area. You could have gone that direction, and you could have saved that first round pick in 2024 that is really the problem I have in itself with the whole draft. But there's more to it. So you have those two players. You trade up a King's ransom. What does Arizona do with it? In 33, it allows them to keep your pick, leverage one to move up, get the tackle they want, and then they move back, allow the Titans to come up and get Will Levis, because that was an important wedge pick. You had that 33. You had that hammer. That was an important one. You saw what Pittsburgh did. They traded up to go and get Joey Porter. They saw who was available after day one and said, oh, okay, we're going up and get this, and we'll pay a little bit of a premium. They moved down 8 spots to 41. They still got B.J. Ojulari, who at LSU is a stud pass rusher, who, in terms of my evaluations, I had as number 6, probably in the class. He's 248. He's 6'2". He isn't Will Anderson, but he still had major success in the SEC just like he did. He's got pedigree with his brother Aziz, is already at the Giants. He went to Georgia. And if you look at his pass rush skill set, you look at his win rate, you look at his film and the way he varies his tempo, the way he uses his hands. B.J. Ojulari is a stud. And you could have just sat there and held serve and gotten anybody you wanted at 12. Maybe you get JSN to pair him with Stroud. You need a wide receiver 1. He was hanging out there. Could have done that. You could have had a lot more flexibility. And then you have the fail-safe next year. Because I know you guys think, it's possible. Maybe the Texans do go. And the Texans improve drastically. Maybe they're in a position for a draft. A playoff spot. Maybe they win 8-9 games. And look, maybe they do. It's great. But there's not that built-in fail-safe. You're currently lined at 5.5 wins. That is the tied for the worst odds in the entire NFL with Arizona, who you traded the pick to. I just did a 2024 draft. I've looked at several already. The Arizona Cardinals are projected to have 2 picks within that first 3 spots. You guys with the Browns pick, I've heard this narrative that you think the Browns are going to be worse than the Texans. I got news for you. That ain't happening. That's a better, more fully formed team. And I'll get into their draft, but they had a better draft from rounds 3 on than you guys did too. In terms of my estimation, in terms of the talent you got. And let's get into that. Round 3, Juice Scruggs. I'm going to use the Arif Hassan metrics he works for PFN, a genius, a friend, and he puts together, collates everybody's mock drafts. So when he put those mock drafts together, he assigns it, here it is, and these are what the sum total of all the experts have. For Juice Scruggs, a player who went to the Shrine Bowl. Just so you know, I was at the NFLPA Bowl for 3 days. I was at the Shrine Bowl for 4 days. I scouted all these guys down the board. Every single one of them, I wrote 80,000 words. Every single offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, cornerback, and safety prospect that went into the NBC 300-word blurb, I wrote it. So I looked at all these guys, I saw them up close, and I was eyes on every single one of these guys that we're going to be talking about. Juice Scruggs was picked with the 62nd pick. You traded up to get him. You also traded up to get Nathaniel Dell. This is a big, you did a lot of trading up this draft. Juice Scruggs at the 62nd pick. He was, according to industry consensus, the 175th overall selection, according to that board. That's a 113 spot difference. You could have had him if you wanted to go down the board. Know who else was available at that spot? Drew Sanders. Not bad. Pretty good linebacker. Not bad. Trenton Simpson could have gone in that direction, where both of them were taken in the mid-60s. Okay, you could have got Juice Scruggs down where you got Tuoto, and you could have upgraded your linebacker. I think that's a missed opportunity, and it's an objective move up. Drew Sanders was a 5-star edge rusher at Alabama for 2 years, went over to Arkansas, second in the SEC in sacks. The prototype rush linebacker you want, it's Drew Sanders. It's Trenton Simpson, a former 5-star too at Clemson. Absolute stud. Both of those guys, physical freaks, check out. You're just not getting the same thing out of Tuoto, okay? If you look at his movement skills, he's 6'1", 227, and he's not a sideline-to-sideline guy, okay? He's a see-it, move, fill gap, and hit. He's smart. I'm not like there's a place for him, but you got a chance to have a difference maker there, and you could have got Juice Scruggs all the way down the line if you wanted him anyways that badly, or made some maneuvering. I think that's a missed opportunity. Nathaniel Dell, 5'8", 165. My background, I like Nathaniel Dell, all right? I don't have a problem with Nathaniel Dell. He was ranked as the 83rd player, and according to industry consensus, he went at 69. You went up to get him. Look, you get your guy. I have no problem with that. But realistic expectations, He's 5'8", 165. The list of players that have been successful at that height, at that weight, with those dimensions, thought he was going to run. He was lined initially at 4.31 to run his 40-yard dash at the combine. He ends up at a 4.49 at 165 pounds and 5'8". You can't be doing that. I know he was electric at the Senior Bowl. I know it. I know he's tough to cover in those one-on-ones, and he looked great. And I don't not like Nathaniel Delic. I don't want to be in a position of saying I don't like him. He's fine as you could slot him in as a nice gadget, manufactured play, wide receiver 3. You can move around. He actually does win downfield. Not a problem, but you need a 1, and you need to find a 2, and that really should be a focus, and you don't have that right now. Dylan Horton, 109. Ranked at 160 according to industry consensus. That's a 51 spot difference. Dylan Horton, I mean, at TCU was important, is a good, solid lunch pail team leader, captain, did a nice job willing that TCU team to the national title this year. Nice player, but he's not an impact guy. And you took him at 109 here, and I just didn't see him in that same way. And I'll get to the Cleveland draft, where I feel like a guy like Isaiah McGuire was taken in the same spot even a little later than that, has more upside, has more potential, is more prototype frame, is more projectable than a guy like Horton. So I don't want to just simply say that the gigantic loss in draft capital and opportunity cost, because you would have gotten a player there that would have been a stud that isn't named Will Anderson. So I don't see how, okay, well, we got Will Anderson. Yeah, that's great. You would have got Van Ness, or you could have got somebody else, or you could have got Ojulari, and you could have got JSN with Ojulari. Literally, would I rather have JSN and Ojulari and Caleb Williams over Will Anderson? Yeah, and you should too. And if that's what happens to the Texans, if they don't improve substantially from being in the top 3, you're going to miss out on the draft capital that is an absolute avalanche that you'd be dealing with Caleb Williams. Or you sit there and you take the pick and you have Marvin Harrison Jr., who's a god in pads, which is exactly what Houston needs. And this isn't a long time coming, guys. This is 8 months away that reality could sink in. And if it does, I want to be on this podcast again. And I'm sorry, I don't want this to happen. But guys, you need to win 8-9 games here. You need to be at that 15 pick. Because I feel pretty good about the Browns being at least past that 10 pick. You're not getting a top 10 out of them probably. So you really have to make sure that you're as high as possible. And you don't have that option. You don't have a fail-safe. It's got to work this year. Because if it doesn't, with a rookie QB and a middling wide receiver core, you don't know what you have yet. I don't think anybody does. But you're in some trouble if you don't score points, because you scored the second last amount of points in the league last year, 16 points to 15.9. 2 teams had 15.9. You guys had 16. And the year before that, you were again in the bottom 3. You had 16.2 points per game you're scoring. How does that improve substantially with just Dalton Schultz and a rookie quarterback? That is my perspective. I like Xavier Hutchinson. That's fine. Jared Patterson is 6'5", 306. He has 31-inch arms and is a center with poor movement skills. There's a reason why he went in the 6th round. I'm sorry. I like 202. He's a nice lunch pail guy. Fine. But this isn't some blowaway draft when you consider the opportunity cost that was expended and what you could have had. And what you could have had instead of Will Anderson is Marvin Harrison Jr. next year, BJ Ojulari this year, an extra 3rd-round pick with that, and Van Ness, whatever you want, JSN, et cetera, et cetera. It's a big risk, and I don't think that's being baked in. So that is why it is not the players themselves. It is what could have been and what you guys are mortgaging on the future that is only going to be 8 months away.
Okay. Hey, so I like that. A lot of detail, good information. So I'm going to kick it off to you, VT. What is your counter react to it?
So I think the biggest thing that we got to talk about is the first round picks, and I think a lot of what you're saying and what some of the criticisms from others are saying is that you could have gotten another edge somewhere. But the trade essentially was not just for Will Anderson; it was a package deal. And what was happening was they knew that if they, for example, selected Will Anderson and then tried to trade up for C.J. Stroud, for example, that Tennessee, the Raiders, etc., they were all trying to go on C.J. Stroud. CJ Stroud was actually QB1 for a lot of teams. It wasn't just Bryce Young that was QB1. So a lot of people were thinking that, the Texans were going to skip out on CJ Stroud. We could go up. There were reports that Tennessee was trying to work with Arizona in order to do that. And if we had not done what we did, which is take CJ Stroud at 2 and then take Will Anderson later, it would have been a higher price. However, I think that if we had done that, the criticism would have been, well, it was a quarterback. Of course, you got to spend what you want to spend for a quarterback because he's your franchise quarterback. He's the heart and soul of your team. And I think that what a lot of people are understanding is that this was in reality a package deal. What they wanted to do was they wanted to get their franchise quarterback and their franchise pass rusher. There were three things that you need on a team in order to succeed. You need a franchise quarterback, you need a left tackle, and you need a pass rusher. And now the Houston Texans has all three. We only had one of those before the draft, and now all three are solidified. So those three positions having solidified, even if all of the other picks are bust, the fact that we now have those three, that's a significant improvement from where we were from the past 3 years. In the past 3 years, we won 11 games over the past 3 years. Why? Because we had poor QB play, we had poor online play, and yes, we had poor receivers. So if your statement also is, well, you could have gotten better receivers, of course, I think we all agree that we wanted better receivers, but you can't do everything in one draft. And so I think that Nathaniel Dell, for example, like you said, he's undersized. I agree he's undersized. So is Devontae Smith. He's kicking ass. So like it's not you can have small receivers, and the thing is about Dell is that the way that he can cut is he's obviously going to be doing more than one thing, right? He's going to be a receiver, but he's also going to be our returner. And I am betting on the fact that he's probably going to return for a touchdown in his rookie year. So he's got a great value. Now, they could have picked Cedric Tillman, Jalen Hyatt, there were other, or Josh Downs. There were other receivers on that board. And we're not talking about giving up draft picks. We're talking about that selection. And they chose to go Nathaniel Dell. Why did they do that? What that tells me is that they not only respect the decision-making process or the wants and needs of the rookie quarterback, but they wanted speed. So we know that Stroud literally talked to them about Nathaniel Dell, and we know that Dell wanted to be there. So that you got the emotional side over there. And then the also thing is we don't have any speed. We have John Mechie, we had Robert Woods, we have Nico Collins, but we didn't have speed. That was the biggest thing that we wanted. As Texans fans, we were thinking, okay, perhaps we get Zay Flowers and get some speed. So obviously with the trade we did, we could not get Zay Flowers or anything, but we got speed in Nathaniel Dell. I would say the only questionable thing that we've done probably is Juice Struggs, because he was considered to be a later round pick. But again, the one thing about him is that from a pass protection perspective, he's actually better than, say, JMS, who is better in run blocking. Jarrett Patterson, for example, hasn't let up a sack in his entire collegiate career. So I think what they wanted to do was also give some flexibility. We had Kenyon Green last year, who we traded down and got in the 15th overall pick, but he was not a very good player. In fact, he was the second worst lineman in the league. So what I think they want to do when they got a rookie quarterback is have someone that they can play center, play guard, swap them out. If Kenyon Green is terrible, they can pop in either Jarrett Patterson or Juice Struggs at guard and also solidify the center position. So I think they wanted that versatility, which is why they did that, as opposed to trading up for someone like Luke Wepler or JMS. They wanted someone with that versatility. And I also wanted to bring up, can we go to the videotape? Can we go to the analytics real quick? So there's a guy named James Coburn who does a lot of these statistics, and he's a great guy on Twitter, and I'm assuming a lot of us follow him. And one of the things that he did, and this is the screen that you're looking at right now, is most improved. And so what you can see here is post-draft. He analytically says that the Houston Texans were the second most improved for all 32 teams. right? So just to get, for anyone that's looking at this, I don't really understand what they're looking for. This is the data based on grading the 23 NFL drafts from a guy named James Coburn, who has been doing NFL analytics for the past decade. AVEAV is basically the average approximate value per pick. Total EAV is a total approximate value of all the selections, and VPP is a value per pick. So this kind of measures where they were drafted, whether they're above or the average, like where their slot was supposed to be. And based upon their value, right, we actually have an incredible draft. Can we go to the second yellow sheet, please, Matt? So this is where that other sheet was basically how well we improved post-draft. This is by value of the draft, and we're number one by value. So when we're talking about where we took those players analytically, if we look at the actual data, we blew everyone else out of the fucking water in terms of where we took these players and the trade that we had. So, in my opinion, if you want to look at who should have gotten a D or anything else here, you got the Miami Dolphins, the Minnesota Vikings, the San Francisco 49ers, the Denver Broncos, and the Cleveland Browns that, in my opinion, all did much, much worse than us. And if you want to give them a D or even an F, yeah, that makes sense. But to give the Houston Texans a D after everything that I just said, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
All right. Chris, what about you, Rob?
Well, Eric made some great points. VT made some great points. I just say that you can't fix everything in one draft, and this move is bold, and it shows me that next year they're going to be even bolder in free agency. So a lot of the players that Eric was mentioning that we could have gotten, we could get those guys next year as well. But Eric, your points was really, 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 really fucking good. I'm not gonna lie, it was really fucking good.
No hate, guys. I'm sorry. I don't have anything against the Texans. Jeez, I'm sorry.
The Juice pick, I think that was the most terrible pick out of the draft. I didn't understand that at all. And his value, he better come with it. But goddamn, I got to go back to Eric again. That was some good ass points, man. Shit.
Thank you, brother. I thought about it. And it's just, Twitter came after me like, who's this idiot? Delete your account. I'm like, I have logic at least.
Yeah.
I mean, and then everything you said, you broke it down. Like you didn't just say something and then break it down. And once you break it down for us and the listeners, maybe it's a better perspective than when everybody was in the tweet saying, "Oh man, how can we get a D? How can we get a D?" Okay, it kind of makes sense now. Maybe it should have been a D plus instead of just a regular D. Maybe a D plus, almost a C. But like I said, go back again.
I understand.
Yeah, it was some good points, man. I'll kick it off to you, Matt.
Yeah, and I do think I probably should throw out a caveat where it's like, in terms of talent, well, the talent haul was good, and as VT, hey man, pretty good, but of the slides, like I love it. I love data, and hey, I just want to learn just like you do. And I reserve the right to change my mind based upon new information. I love this stuff. Thank you for helping educate me about, Houston. And I have no ego about knowing about the Texans. That's what I go to you guys for. You guys know. So thank you for that. Sincerely.
Yeah. I like how you brought it up. The last 2 years, we were bottom of the barrel. I've been saying this since we started this podcast. Scheming fixes everything. I mean, you look at the Jets last year, the Giants last year. They went from bottom of the barrel to the top or right around there. We got a great schemer in Bobby Slowick off that West Coast zone blocking scheme, and of course D'Amico Ryans. So I think that's going to improve, and I think that's what had a lot of these picks. Now, yes, Juice Scruggs was a kind of a reach, but he was graded at 93.8 pass protector. Some in one sack through his whole collegiate career. I think they picked out, for like BT said, to protect your rookie quarterback, and plus zone blocking is a lot easier for a center in the run blocking than it is pass. So he already has the pass down. So that way, hey, let's get this guy. But also there was rumors. I mean, I don't know exactly, but a lot of rumors were the Broncos were going to take him with that 70 pick or 63 pick right behind us. So that's why they had to jump up the Broncos to get their guy. So, I mean, sometimes that's what you got to do, right? Tank Dell, I agree with BT. I think he could be our Debo. I mean, he's not as built like a Debo Samuel, but he has that speed where he can do a lot of the sweeps. He's a punt returner, a kick returner. He can do something out of the backfield if needed. So a lot of versatility. So that was a great pickup in my opinion. But again, it's my opinion. But besides that, a lot of people are hating the Horton pick. I think it was smart because you did jump up to get Will Anderson. But what a lot of people forget, Will Anderson's size, he's a decent guy, but he's no 6'4", 275 edge rusher. That's what Dylan Horton brings. He brings that strength where you have to double team him. You have to get the tight end to block off the edge because of his frame. So Dylan Horton is a great opposite of Will Anderson. And plus, they graded his big game percentage, and he finishes up to the top 5 in big games. So that's what you need as a guy who shows up in big games. I think Tyler Horton was a great pickup. I think that was probably, besides the Hutchinson, I think that was still the draft for the Texans. Get him at, 205? I mean, who would have thought that? But Tyler Horton, to me, was a pretty good pickup. And each player, I think it was, 2 of them that weren't team leaders?
Yes.
So they're looking for a type. Somebody to lead. Because, like you said, the Texans have been horrible the last 3 years. So they need something to change the culture. What else than a team leader? So that brings a lot of value to the table. And scheming, each guy fits the scheme pretty well. And I think Crenshaw, I agree with Crenshaw. Eric, man, you nailed this. You know the reasons perfectly. But besides, now that I know the schemings, though, I'll be like, okay.
That's a good point. Very good points by both of you guys. Yeah, I mean,
that's why I give it A-, B+, the lowest, just because they could have got more value, but who knows that it fit the scheme. So that's why I think at the scheming and what value they got at the pick, I think he knocked it out of the park.
I got to say the one thing though that I like, and trust me, I do appreciate the view that you have, but I also have to say the belief that you think that the Houston Texans will have, say, under 7 games and so forth is kind of hard for me to swallow. Pause. And the real thing here is because we didn't just have a pretty good free agency. We didn't just have a pretty good draft. We didn't just get a franchise quarterback and a franchise edge. Look at the UDFAs as well. We got X to the V, Xavier Valade, who the only reason why he dropped out of the draft is because of his age, 24, but he's a hellified running back. We got Jared Wayne, who could actually make the team, another receiver there. You got Ali Gay, who's another defender. So we're not done yet. We're definitely not done adding to this team. And the other thing that I want to say is you can't draft for thinking that you're going to suck in the future. Because I think that when a team does that continuously, they kind of get set in that loser mentality mindset, and you lose that culture of winning, and you have a culture of losing. And I don't think you can just say we have to plan to lose. We have to plan to suck so we can get Marvin Harrison Jr. or plan to suck. And especially when you just gutted out your entire coaching staff. You got D'Amico Ryans, the head coach of the future, arguably the best head coach other than Sean Payton, and I actually think he's better than Sean Payton, and I know I'm going to get a little hate for that, but I think that Sean Payton was a little overrated for the capital that you had to give him to get. So I think that when you made all those moves in the offseason, you can't actually be bad, because they can't bank on being bad. They can't do a draft where saying we have to prepare for next year when we're a top 3 or top 5 pick. That's not what they're planning on. They're planning that they're outside of the top 5 for sure. And I would say that you're mostly right about the Browns. I think the Browns are basically an 8-9 win team. I don't think they're a playoff team. I think the Ravens are a lot harder. They just solidified their quarterback of the future. They got OBJ. They got Zay Flowers. They're building around Lamar Jackson. I think the Ravens are going to be very difficult to beat. I think the Bengals have been difficult to beat, and they got a little bit better in terms of protection as well. So I think the AFC North is a hard division. I think the Cleveland Browns, they're not. I don't think they're a 10-win team. I think 8 or 9, less than double digits. And so I think with all that being said, I think that the decisions they made were mostly right. Like I said, the biggest question mark was the center position, because I would have gone I would have traded up. I would have jumped the Giants to get JMS, or I would have taken Luke Whippler. Or that was probably my only question mark. But again, after revisiting it, I can understand why they did it, because they want to make sure that if Kenyon Green does suck, that there's a way that they can bench him, replace him, and still give the protection that the new rookie quarterback needs.
All right. Lots to unpack here, guys. Okay, I hope I have the conch shell for a moment. Jerry, VT, I'm going to try to, I got my pen out. I wrote it down. I'm going to try to go one by one. We're going to start with Cleveland. Cedric Tillman, pick number 74, 374. I had Cedric Tillman as my wide receiver 6. I do want the viewers to know a little bit about myself, just so you understand, okay? 23 years I've been doing college fantasy football. I started in 2001. That was the base of why I'm here, why I got here. Every season I have a process which I go about that evolved into evaluating college football teams in general, going into evaluating player performance. When it comes to evaluating player performance, according to DraftKings, according to FanDuel, according to Prize Picks, according to Underdog, according to all the gambling outlets that you've ever seen, nobody has ever annihilated those lines like I do every single Saturday. So I am Eric Froton, college fantasy football, C2C, Devi. I play markets. I play college football markets, investments, whatever it is. I am into the 133 team world of college football in general, more than anyone or anybody will ever meet. I watch 20 games every Saturday. I project player performance every single week to week. So I'm watching these guys that we're talking about here every week. Not only am I writing about them, I'm doing it every week, and I'm hitting 69% of my plays over the course of 4 years. All right. It's literally legitimately superhuman. So I know what I'm talking about here, guys. And that's the only point. I don't even sit and brag, but look, in terms of credibility and who the hell is this guy? Well, that's who I am. Everybody you're listening to, everybody you're citing with the AAV, that's great. You know what they don't do? They don't hit what I hit every week, week in, week out, on the markets that are set by the smartest people in the world. And those are the people that have the Texans at 5.5 wins right now, tied for last with Arizona. Okay. I know you guys hope springs eternal over here and that you have a nice AAV, and that's lovely, but you gave up a lot of future AAV to achieve current AAV. Now, I don't want to see what the gentleman's name has for your AAV this year, when you mortgaged everything to get to the top 3 players in the draft. You mortgaged your entire future. You mortgaged that valuable draft equity you got by trading Cleveland, the quarterback they have right now. I'm not saying it was the wrong move given the circumstances, guys. I'm saying that's what happened, and what you got for it is now gone. You have 1 pick left, but you don't have the advantage of both picks. So I don't want to see this year's AAV. I want next year's AAV. I want to see what that looks like, and I want to see what Arizona's AAV looks like next year, because you literally handed your draft capital, your excess draft capital that made you special, that you could have held if you wanted to, if Marvin Harrison's gone, for a king's ransom for Drake May, Caleb Williams, Quinn Ewers, Michael Penix, et cetera, et cetera. All of them are studs. So that's where we're at. That's, what we're dealing with here. That's what you have to factor in the AAV scores, is that you're not getting next year. So look at Arizona, look what they're going through, and factor in the fact that here are the Browns. Now I'm moving to the Browns. Cedric Tillman, the 74th pick. That's behind Nathaniel Dell. I had Cedric Tillman ahead of Dell because of the reasons we're talking about. you mentioned Devontae Smith as being in a comp. Yeah. Devontae Smith is 172 pounds. He's also 6'1" and has arms that are like 33 inches long. He's one of the most freakishly proportioned humans that has played wide receiver. Like, he's an outlier. He isn't 5'8", 165. He's 6'1", 165. It's a big difference here, okay? So you have Cedric Tillman going there, 6'3", 215. Has all the metrics, has more performance evaluation credibility than Quentin Johnson does. You get him at 74. I love Cedric Tillman. That's a smoking pick, and he's going to move David Bell right out, him and his 4.65 40. Tillman's coming to town. He's going to be a factor. You watch. Siaki Ika, IDL for Baylor. Dave Aranda, the head coach for Baylor, is literally his defense. He's a defensive guy. He's the architect of LSU's 2019 iconic, once-in-a-generation national title team in which Joe Burrow had the single greatest QB season I've ever seen in my life. And I need to see somebody have it better. It was Cam Newton in 2012. Now it's Joe Burrow. He was the architect of that D. He's a genius. He went there. It's the second year at Baylor. They graduated everybody last year after going to the Big 12 championship. And it allowed him to have a badass, slow-paced defense in the high-flying Big 12 because he stuck two-gap in Siaki Ika and his 335 pounds right in the middle of his defense, and you couldn't run on Baylor. That guy is a monster. 2 downs, you put him in there against the run, good luck. DeJuan Jones, tackle, Ohio State. He ate up everybody. He was swallowing people whole. He's 6'8", 374 at the Senior Bowl. He broke his foot and went from 374 up to over 400 from what I'm hearing reported. Caused him to slide down to 4. He was a fringe first-round prospect, and he kicked asses at the Senior Bowl. Trust me, watch it. Isaiah McGuire. Now, here's a big one. This is an apples-to-apples comparison. Dylan Horton, okay? 109, fine. Isaiah McGuire, Cleveland goes and picks him up at 126. I personally prefer McGuire. I think he has a more predictable frame. I think he did a better testing. Yeah, I mean, sure, the lunch pail guy is Horton. I respect the whole leader thing, but I'm going McGuire, and you got him 17 picks later. And then I like Cameron Mitchell for Northwestern. Lastly, the guy we talked about. Man, Luke Whippler is, he's the prototype center. I don't understand. Fine, he fell, but why wouldn't you want to have Ohio State center for C.J. Stroud instead of taking Patterson and his 31-inch arms? Yeah. Being a tabletop center that is going to get toppled over because he can't get out there and kick out. Patterson's metrics, all right? Patterson, I'm going to his RAS score here. We're going to go to his shuttle, right? Shuttle, 4.73. It's 47th percentile, all right? That's poor. 3-cone, 7.96. He almost had an 8-second 3-cone. That's a 34th percentile mark. And then he goes and benches 22 reps, 32 percentile. Bro, you got a 31-inch arms and you're not busting out more than 32 at 300 pounds? That's a problem. That's a problem. I'm not down with that. I would rather have Luke Whippler there. So I'm just saying the apples to apples comparison here of if you're taking the 3rd round down and who I would rather have, it's easy. I want Cleveland. They're at a further stage of their development. You should have traded their pick and kept yours as a failsafe. And now you have to bank on a team that has your former franchise quarterback who's good. Off-field concerns aside, he has more weapons, just had a better draft, and he has had a further life cycle of development. You guys could be sitting here in 8 months, ruining the day you made this trade because you would have had someone else other than Will Anderson who would have been a stud anyways. And that opportunity cost, I want to see Arizona's at AAV next year, and I want to see Houston's AAV next year. That will tell the tale of this draft.
Man, you're knocking it out of the park, man. I'm glad to have you on here. You brought some great insight to it. And it's fun, back-to-back banter, not getting personal, not being disrespectful.
I don't see it.
Great. No.
Of course not.
No, it's great. It's great.
I hope they do better. If they do better, look, if you guys come up the way you think you're gonna, then look,
that's why
egg on my face. Bring me on. Throw pies and rotten eggs. I accept that. If you guys are picking like 15th, if that would have been 15th or more, then cool. But it's just a big risk. That's all I'm saying.
This is why I think it is going to be a higher pick because of the strength of schedule. We played the NFC South, which, you have to argue is probably the worst division in football right now. And then the AFC South, let's be honest, is not good. 3 teams picked in the top 15. So you got those games, and then you factor in we play the bottom 4 of each division. So that is a lot of winnable games. I can see us winning 7 games. So I that could put us to 11, 12, 13. So that's what I'm banking on. But like you said, it could fail. But it's just that's an easy schedule. And all, like I said before, scheming fixes everything. I think Bobby Sloak is going to kill it as OC. Kyle Shanahan speaks nothing but greatness about this guy. I think he's going to succeed as a coach. And D'Amico, I mean, there was a reason why almost every team who needed a head coach wanted D'Amico. So I think he's going to improve the defense. And I think we win 7 games, but I've been wrong before. Anything's better than watching Davis Mills, so I'm glad C.J. Stroud is the starting quarterback.
Well, you guys are the optimistic ones, and your optimism is 7 games?
Well, so let me just say a few things. Number one is it wasn't just almost every team. All 5 head coach needy teams requested to have D'Amico Ryans, right? They wanted to interview him. He rejected 2 of them. So yeah, there was a reason. And the 7 games is a realistic one. Now, obviously, is a realistic one. Now, in terms of optimism, there could be more, right? But again, I'm an optimist, but I'm a realistic optimist. In fact, you may think that I'm overly optimistic. I'm actually considered the negative one amongst of the Texans fan base. All right, I give Nick Caserio a hard time. I'm considered a Caserio hater, and if I'm defending this, there's a reason behind it. It's because I actually see the plan, and the plan is that I understand you're going by odds in Vegas, and betting and so forth. But let's just be realistic here, right? Like last year, they said that the Giants were going to be pretty bad. They ended up winning 9 games. They thought the Jags were going to be bad. They won 9 games. The Jags were supposed to win 6.5 games. They won 9. Jets won 5.5. They won 7. Falcons won 5. Was supposed to win 5. They won 7. So if we're going by what the odds makers said, they've been wrong. Just look at the draft. They had Will freaking Levis going 2nd overall, and they kept changing that quite literally every 30 minutes because they had no fucking clue what was going on. Right. And one of the reasons why I feel so strongly about this draft is also because we've seen how tight-lipped a lot of this stuff is. And I'm not saying just put blind trust in Caserio because that's definitely not been me. Like anyone that's been on Twitter Spaces know that I'm considered to be the Caserio hater. But what I will say is that if we go by this draft where it was expected not to have a quarterback, and I do believe that ownership also probably was involved as well. But if we were to believe the projections are that we weren't going to get a quarterback this year. The projections were that we were most likely Tyree Wilson was the number 2 pick as far as the odds were concerned, as far as the Vegas was concerned, and that those were terribly wrong. Not just a little wrong, terribly wrong. So if we're going by projections, which according to my stats, that the Vegas is typically 60 to 66% right when it comes to the NFL. That means that they're wrong a lot of times. Now, are they more right than wrong? Sure, but as Matt said, we are in the AFC South. We're in a weak division. We go against the NFC South, which aside from the Panthers, pretty much everyone else is going to be pretty weak. So because of our schedule isn't that difficult, 7 wins is realistic. And essentially, if we do really well, if our quarterback ends up actually developing faster than normal, Will Anderson has developed more than normal, the coach staff develops more than normal, it can be more. Not only do we have a hellified offensive staff, but what we also did is not just have rookies around us, we actually brought vets around. So we brought in Bill Lazor, who has lots of experience. We brought in Shane Day, who has lots of experience. Gerard Johnson, who already has a relationship with C.J. Stroud. So off the bat, they already have a relationship working with the quarterback. C.J. Stroud, his biggest thing, right, his knock is that he can't make off-the-script plays. But what does he do? What does he have? What's special about him? His mechanics are basically flawless. So when he goes in day one, right? When every other quarterback that's been drafted this class, they are basically going through the reads and then they're setting their feet and then they're making the throw. He's making his reads and he's ready to throw, his feet already set. So what that means is they don't got to worry about mechanics with him. They're going to have him read defenses. And that's number one, and then be better under pressure. Whereas all the other quarterbacks that were drafted, including Will Levis and Anthony Richardson, they're going to have to learn mechanics first. That gives us an edge up. So if you take all these things into account, and then you look and see there's a plan, and I think that, yes, we will have 7 wins as my floor, and I think it's only up from there. And if you bank that the Texans are going to suck, and that's why you can't draft the way we drafted, because you think the Texans are going to suck, we'll be stuck in Loserville forever. At one point, you got to put your nuts on the table and say, "Let's go," and that's what we did. And I'm actually quite happy that we did that.
Yeah, fair enough. I again, it's a 5.5 over and under, but I would say just in terms of the analogy you used with Will Levis, that's not an apples to apples comparison. The draft is an amorphous, who knows, based on rumor and innuendo type of a thing. A 5.5 wins over under is a settled market on the most bet sport on the entire planet, the NFL, with the sharpest bettors. So that is a fully settled market at this point. After the draft and before the draft, that it's not the same as the Will Levis thing. So that I don't think that's a fair apples to apples. And in order to be a profitable gambler, you have to hit 54%, and that is extremely difficult to do on the NFL side, which I think kind of plays into your what you're saying is, yeah, I mean, 54% of the time, the best get it wrong, and you're profitable. So hey, I get that too. I do respect where you're coming from, but it's all about the downside. For me, I mean, I think I pretty much said my piece on it, and
we like it.
I'm careful. I don't want to be sitting here like I don't want to come on here for you guys in 8 months. I hope I'm wrong. Okay, I don't get anything out of being right or wrong. Nobody cares.
We're gonna hold you to it.
Nobody cares my opinion. I mean, in the grand scheme, I hope I'm wrong, guy. I hope that the damage of this trade, and it is. I mean, I don't think anybody's gonna deny you gave up a lot. I just hope it isn't as bad as it could be, because if you are in the bottom 5 again, it would be a catastrophe. It would be an absolute catastrophe, and you're going to be sitting here and talking about it when you see the Browns in the playoffs, because everybody makes the playoffs. It's half decent now, and they have the number 20 pick, which is what they're currently favored to be. They're favored to be the 20 pick. That's what the odds say. So you guys are currently valued to be the worst with Arizona, tied. Browns are at 20th. That's a big gap that you're trying to fill here, boys, between that value. And that's even saying, why the hell are you trading the pick anyways, is the whole point I'm trying to make. The hell does it have to be an either or for? Why do that? I just don't think you need to. You're not going to win this year. You're not making the playoffs this year, in my humble opinion. I mean, I just don't think it's happening. If you're not making the playoffs, you need to keep building. And you're saying it isn't just in 1 year. You don't build in 1 year. Well, that's my point exactly. You're not building in 1 year. So, geez, guys, what are we giving away potentially? Marvin Harrison Jr., who's a golden god for C.J. Stroud. Golden god. And you could have him. And that's the failsafe. That's that light at the end of the tunnel. If everything goes wrong, you have that. And all you had to do was just sit there and take a pick at 12. And you would have had it. Unforced error. I'm sorry. That's how I feel. Talent-wise, B+, fair. Overall management of the draft. What you came in with, what you came out with. That's a D. D+. I'm going D+.
Hey, we moved it up.
Grade.
We moved it up to D+. Perhaps
you guys did your job. VT makes great points. He's really good. You guys all do. I love you guys. It's just, I'm sorry, guys. I'm scared. I'm scared. If it doesn't,
we're going to have to bring you back, like you said. In
good,
8
bad,
months,
or different.
10,
Kill me if it goes.
It's gonna be fun. Eric, before we move on,
I'm happy to take my arrows. I'm happy to take some lumps, guys. I hope you're right. I hope it works out.
Before we move on, we got some questions from the chat. Eric, did you think Mr. Irrelevant would become so relevant last year?
Well, what I love about Brock Purdy and what I love about guys like, for the Houston area folks, Clayton Tune. Well, I got love for Clayton Tune. You know what I mean? I'm a college fantasy guy. I'm a C2C guy. I have so many shares of Clayton Tune. He helped me win the 20-team, 50-player roster expert college fantasy football dynasty league, Clayton Tune was my every week starter in one of my 2 quarterback spots. Clayton Tune walks on water for me. So, but Tune, Haener, O'Connell, those mold of quarterbacks that you saw when Stetson Bennett falls in there. Those guys are that Brock Purdy mold. And what that fits is Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick and Bill Walsh. All the greats. You know what they like to draft? Bill Parcells is very, very open about it. He likes to draft guys who have been in school for 4 years, who got their degree, who had started for 3 years, who handle pressure, who can complete, 65 or more % of their passes, and all those metrics, and can throw deep. Problem with Purdy is he could throw deep a lot to Hutchinson, but then Breece Hall just eventually took over and was like, all right, well, we have to hand the ball off to Breece Hall. I was at the Combine in 2022, and I literally asked Brock Purdy, I'm like, your downfield passing rate, it wasn't the same. Like, as a sophomore, you were better. He's up there on the podium asking him this. Like, what do you attribute to? He said, look, Coach Campbell made the decision that we have 5 returning offensive linemen, and because of the COVID year, they had 6. It was like they had 6 years, all those big farm boys. So they're all singing in unison in terms of all their calls, and we're just perfect out there. We got Breece Hall, who's running a 4.39 at 217.
That's what I wanted last year.
He's a goddamn freak. So, that was Purdy's thing. Is like I didn't really get to showcase kind of what I could do as much because I was put on ice for the last 2 years. So those are the type of guys that Purdy, who is an experienced guy who has years of starting experience, is battle tested. You've seen him handle pressure. You've seen him run the 2-minute drill. He can make a 3rd and 12 throw, which is vital when the other team knows you're going to throw, and he can do it. That's the type of things that you're going to get out of those guys. You're probably going to get. I like Tune. I like Haener. I like AOC. And I'm, to a lesser extent, I guess Bennett, but like he's got to be respected for that reason. And if they're going to come, like I could see one of those guys breaking out.
Oh man, we love it. Well, the quote to wise words of Crenshaw, this is probably the worst part of the show because it's the end. So Eric, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming on again. It was a pleasure. Some great knowledge. We love it. Tell us where we can find you on social media and what you got cooking so we can look for it.
Certainly. I am CF Froton. You see it right there. It's going on the screen. There's my finger. There it is. CF Froton at the Twitter machine. I also am employed by NBC Sports. I'm the lead college football analyst. Also do NFL draft with my colleague, who I think you guys are having on, Connor Rogers. He's the big dog. Like, you can wait till you get Connor on. I'm sure he'll be a lot kinder, more charitable than me. Connor's a sweetheart. He's a hell of a guy and a hell of an analyst, and I'm sure he'll do absolutely smashing, and you'll have a lot more nicer things to say about him.
Yeah, nah, everything's wonderful with you, man. We appreciate you coming on. BT, tell us where we can find you, what you got cooking.
Yeah, before I do that, I just want to thank Eric for taking my rants. Not everyone can handle it, so I appreciate it. It was great talking to you. I definitely appreciate your analysis. I do think you're wrong, but I appreciate it.
It's all good. Hey, that's why we come back in 8 months. Who knows? I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I want you guys to prosper. I have nothing against Houston.
I appreciate
had a great time when I visited.
We definitely got to do this again.
You're great. You're great.
But for everyone else out there, you can find me at Brown Chubby Bear on Twitter. And I'm on Twitter Spaces probably almost every night. So come on and we can talk about it. We'll probably argue as well. We are putting out lots of content on the website, so please check out fanbattlesports.com. And there's other videos as well on the YouTube channel, Texas Fan Battle. So check out the YouTube, check out the website, and check out me on Twitter.
All right, Mr. Crenshaw, where can we find you at?
All right, you can find me at Fifth Ward Crenshaw. And Eric, what is your NFL team?
I'm sorry. Yeah, with James, I went over this. New England Patriots. I am from Boston, 27 years in Boston, but I've been in San Diego for well over a decade now. It is my home. It is the best weather in the world, and I don't ever want to leave. But I will be. I actually will be relocating up to Connecticut for 4 months of the college football season to be in studio working the ticker, making sure that we get everything dialed in, because NBC just acquired the Big Ten broadcast rights for the prime time. So I want to be in studio for that. It's very exciting. We already had Notre Dame. Now we have the whole conference, the super conference. So we're really pumped, and I'm excited for that. But I'm bracing for December, man. It's cold.
Oh yeah, Big T used to live up there, so
Yeah,
all about it.
Yeah, Connecticut's my own stopping ground.
Yeah. All right, guys, and you can find me at A1 Day One Texans. Like BT said, make sure you check out the FanBattleSportsNetwork.com. Some great stuff there. Some great articles from every team of the AFC South right now. And also, you can find the podcast at Texans Fan Battle everywhere. And you can find this recording tomorrow on any platform. So if you want to rehash of what went down, check it out. And, guys, thank you again, Mr. Eric. We appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Fantastic time. Guys, till then, have a nice week, and we'll see you then.
Go Texans.